You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care, with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 556, Supplements for Health, Stress, and Performance with NuEthix CEO Stephaney Theobald.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I'm Amanda Valentine. My guest today is CEO of NuEthix, and that is Stephaney Theobald. But you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to finally meet you because I've met so many other people that you work with and you know, but we have never met,
right?
Including Jason Theobald, who's been on this podcast multiple times, Zeb Crawford, who has been on this podcast a ton of times, Erica Fitlove, who's been on this podcast multiple times, and then I've heard about him, but I've not met him either. Is Vince?
Vince, yes. Oh, we should get him on here. He's a trip. You would like him.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. I've heard that he's just like the magician of nutrition.
Oh, totally. Of nutrition and hormones. Those are his things. Absolutely. I know when I walked in, I gave you a big hug, and I was like, "Can I hug you? I feel like I know you, but I've never met you."
I know,
before.
right?
And I'm like, with COVID, am I allowed to hug you? I don't know.
I'm like, it's okay. It's worth it.
Yeah, I do, because I feel like I've known you because I followed your podcast and I followed your stuff on Instagram. So.
Yeah, same thing too. We're Facebook friends and Instagram friends. And yeah, I mean, I've met Zeb, it was probably like 2 years ago now, if not longer than 2 years ago.
Yeah, I would say it feels like even a little longer than that, but I mean, probably around there. Because he would talk about you all the time and talk about going on your podcast. Like, do you care if I talk about Natty? I'm like, oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, because you have Natty Nutrition too, and that's where Zeb was a coach through that. And then he was my coach for a while through Natty Nutrition. And so, which, I mean, maybe I need to hire him again.
I don't know if you can. He's too busy. We hired him for NuEthix, so he's kind of running a whole bunch of that stuff for me too. But, but we do have a whole host of coaches if you ever need somebody.
So tell me all about NuEthix.
So NuEthix kind of started, it's interesting how it started. Well, so I had our own coaching company, Natty Nutrition, and I was helping other people get healthy. And then I started noticing, so I competed for a while in the bodybuilding world. I was in figure and then women's physique. And I competed for about 5 years, and my metabolism was just in the gutter after the fact. And because I kept just kind of yo-yo dieting, because I would try to grow and then try to lean out and grow and lean out. And I started noticing, and I knew a little bit to be dangerous about how the stress and the dieting all affected my body, but I couldn't figure out how to fix it, because basically one time I tried to lose some weight again and it wasn't working. And if anything, I was gaining weight. I was so stressed out all the time, losing hair, just a bunch of weird things happening. And so I was trying to find someone to help me. I got pregnant, so I put that on hold for a little bit. I think that kind of helped me naturally chill out, because I just stopped worrying about dieting because I was having a child. But then after I had him and I lost some weight, I got to the sticking point that no matter what I did, no matter what diet I had tried before that worked, nothing was working. So Jason was actually the one who introduced me to Vince, and he had never met Vince. He had just heard of Vince through kind of people he knew in the industry. And he just knew Vince was really good at fixing metabolism, fixing adrenal fatigue, anything that, I thought I had. So I came in with Vince, and he actually coached me for about a year and helped me get everything right. All my hormones right, my adrenals right, my metabolism right. I started losing weight again. I was eating way more food than I thought that I should be. I was eating way more carbs because I went low carb for a long time. And so in that, we were talking because Vince's company, it's called Nutrition Dynamic. It's a direct competitor of my coaching company at the time. So we would talk about how funny it was that we were working together, and we had these like-minded goals of creating, supplements that are really helping people, and how at the end of the day, people don't realize how stress and their hormones and everything are really impacting not only how they feel, but how they look. So over time, Jason sort of started to learn a little bit from Vince, and then I was learning more from Vince, and the three of us kind of sat together. Jason and I had a small supplement line, and we wanted to take it bigger, but then we knew we needed another angle to it, and we also needed kind of a face. We're not salesmen. We're not the people who are going to get out in your face and tell you everything. But Vince he loves to speak. He's so intelligent, and he can speak about everything very well. And we were like, you know what? We have like-minded goals. He's really great at that side of it. I'm really good at running the business. Let's put it all together. And so we did. And we came in 2017 was our first year, and it has just gone crazy in the last few years. So
yeah. So I mean, what are the process of starting a supplement company? Because I'm like, I mean, I've taken supplements, and you think of like protein powders and stuff like that. Of like, I have no idea of like how would I just like start making it.
Right. Well, so the smaller supplement company that we had under Natty, it was really just I got online and I started researching, and I knew certain certifications that I wanted to have because it's a very highly unregulated. Well, it's a little better now, but at the time, very unregulated industry. And so I found a place that had all the certifications I want, and we were doing simple. The two products we have were very simple. So that's how I kind of got my feet wet with it. But then when we wanted to go to this next level, we had very specific goals of making sure it was all CGMP, and it was the most, testing the raw material through the production and then the end material. We had a whole lot of goals we wanted to do, and Vince happened to have some connections in that world. Just given his background, he had worked for a big supplement company in the sales area. So he knew a lot of people who were kind of in the medical grade field, which is what we wanted. We didn't want to be just your consumer brand or consumer level. We wanted to be medical grade. So he brought those connections, which was helpful to us as well. And then we just kind of put together, Jason and Vince are formulators. So they're the ones who come up with the recipes, basically. So they both happen to have really good ideas. It started the first two smaller products we had with Natty. Vince loved it, and he was like, we can make these better. So then he added to it. So then we kind of took Jason's brain and Vince's brain together, put these formulas together. And we had 3 products when we first launched. It was our first 2 products that became GDA Max and Estracort. And then we started with our protein powder, because protein powder is one of those things that most of them have a ton of ingredients in it, and they're just not good for digestion overall. And ours have 4 ingredients or 5, depending on the flavor. And so that's what we really started with.
Well, I mean, I know so many people, including myself, like you look at supplements and you're like, what the hell am I looking at?
Right.
And where do I start? And what's good for me and what's not? So I feel like anytime I even mention protein powders, people are like, what do you use? Like everybody's just like searching for is it the one at the grocery store? Is there some place online that has, a better thing? It's just massive of so many people, and just kind of, how do you find yourself in a sea of all of these things that are unregulated and people that aren't putting out good products of, being in kind of that, how do you try and make yourself stand out?
Yeah. Oh, it's really hard. The protein specifically is one of the hardest markets to get into. And actually, we just had a business dinner last night, and I was telling our manufacturer how excited I was that we're finally getting some traction in the protein world, because that was one of our slower sellers in the beginning, mainly because it's so expensive. But people are really seeing the benefits now of how much their digestion thanks them for it, and how much their body is responding to it. Because there are so many out there that just aren't great. They have a ton of fillers, and they aren't regulated. And that's a big thing that we do is we third-party test all of our products, and we publish those on our website so people can go and look and make sure what we say is actually in it. But it is so difficult to figure. It's really who's the best marketer is where people are gaining traction in that world. It's like who looks the best online, and who looks, and that's where people, or referrals. I mean, that's a big way that people do it. And we've gained a lot there, is just referrals, because we have people who have, terrible irritable bowel syndrome or just different issues that they'll use our protein, and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any stomach issues. And then they'll tell their friends about it, and they'll tell their friends about it, and it kind of just goes from there. And then it's become so popular, we're coming out with a 3rd flavor too, which is always exciting. Then you get a little bit more diversity of people's tastes, and they'll try it out. It just kind of starts from word of mouth, really, is where it started.
So outside of protein, how many other supplements do you have right now?
So we have, I think I counted the other day, a total of 20 SKUs, but I think it's 17 products, but some different flavors. So it started from 3, and now we're up to, and we have 2 more in the works. But they all sort of work together as a system, and they're pretty much all focused on either hormone health or gut health. That's kind of the main, or stress relief. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 categories that we really focus on. So we don't have, like your creatine, your glutamine, some of the basics that a lot of supplements have, we don't focus on that. We're really focused on just blends and things that are going to really, at the end of the day, focus your inner health to help sort of the outward appearance.
So I know that we'll get into them specifically here in a second, but having supplements that deal with hormone health, like how do you like it seems like a lot of people would be sketched out by that of
Yes.
like, how do I know that taking this pill, my doctor didn't recommend this to me? Do I trust a supplement company to regulate my hormones? I imagine that's something you hear often.
Oh, absolutely. And we have to be really careful about that too, because we're not medical doctors and we can't say this is how you're going to fix your hormones. We always recommend people run things by their doctors. Unfortunately, we find that a lot of medical doctors don't have a lot of this knowledge because what they're taught, they're not taught holistic. They're taught, pieces of the body, and they don't really look, not there's a certain subset that do, but a lot of doctors don't look at the whole body altogether and how they're all interacting and how things are working. So we get frustrated because people will come to us, and I'm a perfect example where back when I was having my issues, I was going to as many doctors as I could find. I went to an endocrinologist. I went to just my general GP. I went to a bunch of different people, got all this blood work, and they all would just tell me, you're fine. Blood work's fine. Everything looks healthy. Your hormones look great. And then it wasn't until I got more blood work, because there's more specific things that you need to test, not just your standard panels that people do. And then Vince was able to help me see, like, no, see that's not normal. Or this ratio, that's not normal. We need to fix this. And so it's a delicate balance. But most of our products are all just very natural things, minerals, vitamins, things that you can find over the counter. So it's not, none of them are medicine, so you don't have to worry about that. But some of our products do, like our Thyroid Boost interacts with your thyroid. So we tell people if you're on thyroid medication, 100% go talk to your doctor about it first.
What is that? So what does that supplement do for your thyroid?
So it helps boost your own natural T3.
Okay.
So it's different. So most thyroid medication is giving your body basically synthetic T3 or, or something that your body's not producing, or it's giving your body the T3. So essentially your body doesn't have to produce T3. And the problem with that is it makes your body, it's reliant on that forever because your body doesn't have to produce it itself. Our product is trying to help stimulate your own thyroid to produce its own T3 so that then you're not stuck on it forever. Some people can come off of it because their body's, it's working now. It's producing T3. It's great. But the problem we do find, though, is if people don't change their lifestyle and get rid of the stress, then even Thyroid Boost they may have to stay on all the time, because if you're in a highly stressed environment, your thyroid's not going to work optimally. So our really big thing is we try to educate people on top of it. We don't want to just give them a supplement and say, here, take this for the rest of your life. Our goal is to help people not have to take supplements for very long, but learn how to change your lifestyle on top of it so that you're getting rid of the stress and able to keep your hormones where they need to be without supplementation. That's always the goal.
Now, what if you're just like, you don't know officially, you haven't talked to a doctor about having thyroid issues, you're just kind of self-diagnosing yourself and you start like taking some of those pills? I mean, is that going to hurt you in any way if you end up not having it?
No, most of them are super safe. I will say, like, our Thyroid Boost is a great one where you would want to make sure at the very least you're not hyperthyroid, because it can exacerbate that. You don't want to put somebody in any kind of issues with that. EstroCore is another one where it's intended to lower your natural estrogen or your excess estrogen. And if somebody is already low estrogen, it could cause them to go even lower and become androgen dominant, which you don't want. So there are some of them that you may want to be a little cautious. And if you've had blood work done and you know your estrogen is high or like on the higher end of normal, totally fine to take it. But for the most part, most of our products are like our Relax is you put it under your tongue, and it's melatonin and just things that you can get naturally over the counter. They're something you don't really have to be too worried about. Cordy's is another one with some of the ingredients in there that just kind of helps your body relax and calm down.
Yeah, I have taken Cordy's and I will vouch for that. That one totally works. Like that one, I don't even remember if it said recommended at night, but I had to take it at night because it would relax me so much and have me fall asleep.
Yes, that is the time we'd recommend for most people, because what it does is naturally lowers your cortisol levels, and you want your cortisol to be low at night because that allows you to fall asleep. People who can't fall asleep, have a racing mind, generally have high cortisol. So you take the Cordy's before bed, and it just kind of helps your body relax, turn off your mind, and you can fall asleep. It's our best seller by far. I mean, we were sold out for almost the entire month of July because COVID happened. Yes. And our sales went through the roof with that stuff because everybody was stressed out, and it was helping everybody. And we were getting all these letters like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I can't thank you enough. So sales went crazy. And then on top of the delay in shipments and raw materials and everything was slowing down our production. So we were out for a while, and the amount of emails, I feel sorry for Zeb, because he's now working for us. He was having to answer all these emails of people like, where is it? I need it. I can't sleep without it. But it's back in stock now, so it's great. But I use it throughout the day just because I have very high stress. I try to keep it low, but obviously with raising my child, trying to run a few companies, I take it in the morning because I have high cortisol in the morning. I take it midday and then I take it at night. But most people who are going to start with it, we just say, just take it at night. It'll help you go to sleep. And because that's key right there. Better sleep is going to make a huge difference just in everything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then where does Adrena Health come in? Because I know Jason was on the podcast. Oh man, it might have been early last year or something, where I talked about adrenal fatigue. I'm like,
Yes.
I feel like I'm having some of that right
Yep.
now, and he recommended it. But like, how is that different from Cordy's?
So adrenal fatigue, it's sort of opposite of Cordy's. Adrena Health, what happens is because your cortisol is produced in your adrenal glands. If your adrenal glands are producing it so much for an extended amount of time, they start to tire out essentially, and they get like fatigue. That's why they call it adrenal fatigue. It's not technically a diagnosis, but it's a term that we use. But so your body then stops producing as much cortisol as you need, and you need some cortisol, especially in the morning. When you wake up, cortisol should spike a little bit to get you going for the day, give you some energy. People who have adrenal fatigue, they're not producing very much in the morning. So generally you're waking up just so tired. Even after 8 hours of sleep, you're dragging. You have to, you hit your snooze a whole bunch of times. You just don't want to get up. You need coffee all day long. Usually that's a sign that you've got some adrenal issues and you need some help. So Adrena Health is good just to kind of boost that, to give you a little bit of that energy to kind of help your adrenals start working properly. Mm-hmm. Adrenal fatigue Adrena Health is one that you typically don't need to take for an extended amount of time. You usually say take a bottle and then see how it goes, because the goal is to stimulate your adrenals, and then you don't need it to stay on it the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Cordy's is one that people generally take more often because most people can't get rid of the stress in their life.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice if we could all quit our jobs or get rid of a relationship that's bad or whatever.
Or a national or a global pandemic.
Exactly. Right. Yes. You can't, there's nothing you can do about that. So,
Yeah.
and Cordy's is safe to take all the time. And that's when, we just generally say, if you have stress in your life, this is going to help you. But Adrena Health, we typically try to get people off of it. Because again, our goal is to not have people, I know it's not a good business to try to get people off your product. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of our goal, is to just have people use what they need and then kind of be done with it when their body doesn't need it anymore.
I see, that's awesome. And that's why, I've so many people like in your sphere that like have, that I've been lucky enough to meet, like with Zeb and Jason and Erica and everybody else. It's like, you guys are just like, you care about people.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And it's amazing because, I think a lot of people think of, supplements, and especially because you're thinking of a social media world,
Yes.
where it just comes off as such a money grab.
Yep.
Of like, hey, look at my hot bod, buy my supplement and you can look as shredded as me. And I'd say that's probably, more the standard.
Oh, absolutely.
And
100%.
so it's like, who do you trust and how do you know what to choose? Like I brought up before, like, do I just buy this protein powder at the grocery store? I don't know if this is right. So to actually know people from a company that you created from a good place, that you want people to be healthy, you want to help people. And it's like, hey, I hope you have to stop taking my supplements.
Yes,
That's huge.
Right. Well, and I think to your point about the whole social media thing, that kind of where it comes into play too. The supplement industry is so male dominated. And I think that's why you get a lot of that marketing tactics, because they market things a certain way. And being a female CEO has made us a little different in that. And now, granted, Jason and Zeb and Vince all very much care about people as much as I do, if not more. The problem is if you have a male running it, people sort of have these tendencies to think, okay, that's the direction. They want everything to look that way that is on social media.
Yeah.
And so we try very hard to not be that way. A lot of if you get on our Instagram, you'll see some bodies just because we work with a lot of competitors and we promote them. And but certainly we're not saying take this and look like this, because that's not, at the end of the day, we're saying take this so you're healthy. And then once you're healthy, then everything else will kind of follow along. But you can't, that's the supplement industry right now is so polarized for the most part that we try to fill the gap. You either have the companies that say, take this, you're going to look awesome. It's all about how you look. And the other end, you have the medical. It's like, take this so you're amazing. You have all great gut health. But who cares about what you look like? And we realize there's there's something in the middle there where some people want to be confident and be happy with how they look, but they also want to do it at they don't want to put their health at risk for it.
Yeah.
They don't want to take all these fat burners and crazy things that are going to, at the end of the day, make it unsustainable. So we try to find that happy medium to make people healthy on all spectrums.
So how do you feel being a female CEO in the health and fitness industry?
It honestly doesn't. I've always been the female in a male-dominated world, so to speak, just from growing up. My neighborhood was a lot of boys, and I'd play with the boys. I went to engineering school, and it was all men. I was one of the few women in it. So I've always kind of tended towards just being, and I went to an all-girl high school too, which I think was helpful for me because it made me more confident not having the men around. And so then when I went to college and then I started surrounding myself mainly in that field with men, it doesn't bother me. If anything, I'll use it to my advantage at times because sometimes you do get people who, not that they look down on you, but they question certain abilities. And so I've had a few people make comments and things, but I always just roll with it and take it to my advantage to be like, okay, well, I'll play to that. If you want me to be that, I'll play to this, and just kind of use it to my advantage to be like, look, I'm actually intelligent. I'm a woman, but I know how to do this. I can help people. And so it really hasn't bothered me. It's kind of weird when you say that, female CEO, because I don't really think of it that way. It's just more of just in an industry that I want to help people. And it makes sense. I mean, if you look at like the nursing industry, that's mostly women. In general, women love to help people. So to me, it always surprised me there's not more women running supplement companies. But I think the tide is kind of changing slowly.
And is that mostly what drew you there? I mean, from being an engineer to running a supplement company, it doesn't seem like that would be a logical leap.
No, it's not at all. That all just happened. I went through engineering school. By the time I realized I didn't like engineering, I was so far into it, I wasn't going to start over. And it was a good degree to have. So I got the degree and I started working at GE, got into their information technology area, and went through their leadership program. And so I worked for years under their leadership program. And what their leadership program, it's kind of like getting your MBA in a short amount of time because they put you through these intense classes. The whole goal is it's a 2-year intensive program where they're trying to just make you a leader and running, $1 million projects and things like that. So I gained a lot of my business sense from working from GE. But I still was just never happy because I wasn't directly helping people. And I always knew at my core I wanted to help people. So then I eventually was miserable. I went to another company, corporate America, didn't like that for a couple years, and then decided I wanted to start a company to help people get fit. And that was an odd thing how it happened too, because when I met Jason, he was in the world of bodybuilding. I was into fitness, but I wasn't really into anything with I had never dieted in my life. I wouldn't, ever say that I had done a diet before. And when I saw him and how he was eating, I was always cautious of what he ate, but I was seeing he was eating way more than I was and not doing as much as I was. I was out running 5 miles every day, eating very little, and he was doing the opposite, but he looked way better than I did. So I started to kind of take interest. Okay, well, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And my science mind with engineering helped me kind of learn what he had learned, and he just sort of learned it by reading it, researching it, doing it himself. And I started to totally change the way I looked, and I loved it. And then I started seeing people asking me, well, how did you lose this weight? How did you go? I'm short, I'm 5'2", so I went from like a size 6 to a size 2, which is a big difference on a really short person. And so people were asking me, like, what are you doing? And I slowly helped them, and then it kind of turned into, well, this is what I want to do. I want to help people feel good about themselves and have more energy and be happy and confident. And I started noticing it was helping people in all aspects of life, because when you feel more comfortable physically, it can translate into everything. I mean, even myself, I noticed I was a better mom. I have a stepson too, so even before my son was born, being a mom to him, I was a better wife, a better daughter, a better friend, everything, because I just felt more confident and I just wanted to help people. So that's where I knew that was my passion. And so I just kind of quit the corporate world and started the nutrition company, and then it snowballed from there, like I said before, with NuEthix.
And how long have you been doing NuEthix now?
NuEthix, we launched it in 2017. I had started my nutrition company back in 2007, so I did that for about 10 years before we started NuEthix.
Oh man, that's just gotta be so rewarding just to watch.
It is.
And then I can't even imagine the amount of people that have you've directly touched their life.
Well, that's the part, and actually, to be honest, that's the part I get a little sad with right now, because I'm not taking clients anymore. And so we're directly helping people for sure with our supplements, but it's not that same one-on-one touch.
Yeah.
So my goal would be eventually to get back to taking client, so I have that direct impact on people. But it is, I mean, it's the most rewarding thing. I mean, you and I were talking about before, just to be able to know you're directly impacting someone and making their life better in some way is so much more rewarding.
Yeah.
So much more than helping $1 billion company make another $1 billion. Like that's not, that doesn't do it for me.
Exactly. Well, and especially, you know, with just like the supplements that you have, we're talking about so much of like the stress and the hormones and things like that we all deal with. And I mean, I personally have not seen any other supplements that help with those things.
Right.
Just my very little knowledge of supplements. And to be like, this is in the time that we're in right now specifically, like how that is just rampant and people are just like, please help me.
Absolutely.
Where you're like, hey, you know what? I've been working on this thing. We've been at this for a while now. This is what we're here for. Yep. So it's such a really good moment where you're like, okay, it's where some people are at their very worst right now. Like I'm here to help give you some relief.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because there's actually a ton of supplements out there that claim they help stress and some that really do help stress. The problem is that space is so underground, so to speak. It's that holistic. Some people, it's not a mainstream thing. It's like, you know, if you go into Whole Foods, which is becoming more popular, but health food places, you'll find the supplements like that. But the mainstream people, they kind of look at it like voodoo, like, oh, that's weird. I'm not going to take those kinds of things. So what has really helped us is just getting more into the mainstream and showing people that, no, your health and holistic health really is important, but it's not this weird backdoor thing that people sort of think it is. And so we bridge that gap to show you, no, it's normal. It's very normal. And if anything, it's going to help you. I mean, it's going to directly impact your life. I mean, just even we have people who they'll take Cordy's just for the first like day or two, and they say, "Oh my gosh, I have not slept better in months or years," and then that makes their day a little bit better. They're a little more productive, and then it all kind of just translates from there. And then that's kind of our gateway product, is what I call it. And then they'll usually try a couple of other products, and they'll start to realize like blood sugar control. They don't realize how much their blood sugars are affecting everything else. Digestion, it's the same thing. People don't realize how your digestive system, they call it like your second brain. Your gut is your second brain. It's so much happens in your gut. And if everything's not right in there, you're not going to make progress. So it's just slowly introducing people to this weird way of thinking. And I come from a family of all medical doctors. So when I used to talk about this, they thought I was nuts. And then she's older sister, who's a pediatrician, she's even a handful of times, more than a handful, come to me with questions about some of her older, like teenage clients, because she's told me directly, they took, I think 1, maybe 2 nutrition classes in all of their schooling that they had. And they go for 7 years between the residency and the school. Yeah. They just don't touch on that. So it's really finding that hybrid and showing people it's super important how your whole body works together. And people kind of forget about all of that, or just don't, I don't know, they have just kind of turned off by it.
Well, there's that, and then there is just so much misinformation online. So whenever you do reach out for help, like it's so scary that the thing that you reach for could potentially hurt you more.
Yes.
Where it's somebody that is trying to like make a quick buck, or again, where you're like going for your fat burners and everything like that, instead of getting an education of like, well, this is how we can eat and sleep and rest and move your body in healthier ways. And I don't know, it just seems like just a chaotic world.
It is very much. And that's one thing we're trying to really do to differentiate ourselves, is really focus on education. This year especially, we always have, the three of us, Jason, Vince, and myself, always make ourselves available for emails, and we'll answer questions. And it's funny, especially Jason, but Vince also, they will often recommend supplements that aren't our supplements. So we make no money off of it, but those are what are really going to help this person. So that's what we recommend you to do. But we're focusing this year to try to do more educational content, free educational content, because we want to make sure people are understanding how the body works and then how these things help it. And a lot of it is not even supplements. Sometimes it's just like changing these things about your lifestyle. And if you can do these things, we often say supplements are kind of like your third line defense. First you got to change your lifestyle. You got to change these habits that you're doing. You got to change your diet. And then once those two things are in line, if things still aren't working, let's go ahead and add these supplements. There are extreme cases where we say, yeah, absolutely, we know you're going to need some supplements on top of it. But, supplements are not, there's no magic pill that's going to fix everything. At the end of the day, you have to be eating healthy, and you have to be working on your lifestyle and keeping stress as low as possible, and mental health and all of it. But yes, it is a scary world, but we're hoping to be more educational
Yeah.
so people don't feel so scared by it all.
Well, I think that's a danger of just like protein powders. I think there's just such a misinformation of people like, oh, I'm using a protein powder, I am being healthy.
Right.
That's almost kind of like it's your Nutrisystem
Yep.
sort of drink. And it's like, no, it's the supplement if you need to put more protein in
Correct.
your diet. And
Yes.
so I can see that if we're just starting there with that mindset with protein powder, then we have all these other supplements, then you're just like, oh, well, I'm going to take this. It's going to be fixed. Like, no, you still need to,
Right.
eat some balanced meals and move your body.
Absolutely.
But that's
well,
just
the
not as much
perfect
fun.
example that I have is with some stress I've been going through lately. When COVID started, I put on like 2 pounds. It's nothing significant, but for me, like, because I'm very good at keeping my weight at a certain place, I put it on. So then I started to try to get it off, and my body wasn't responding, and then I was trying harder and harder, and nothing was working, and I was so frustrated. And I was taking Cordy's this whole time and some other supplements. And on the plus, I wasn't gaining a whole bunch of weight through all this stress, but I certainly wasn't losing. And then as soon as I dropped the stress that was happening in my life, my body just completely, I went lower than what I was pre-COVID. Like, it just magically, I always said, quote unquote, magically fell off.
Yeah.
My supplementation didn't change. I wasn't taking a magic pill. I wasn't working out any harder. It was, I literally got rid of this huge stressor that allowed my body just to be like, okay, I'm going to function normally now. I'm going to adjust my hormones and go about my day. But people don't realize just how impactful stress can be.
Oh, for sure. And it's just like, even just thinking of talking about just COVID, it's just this undercurrent of stress of, no matter what's going on in your life besides that, whether you lost a job or somebody is sick or anything else, of just this, man, you just can't escape any of it. And so it's like we're all just like living at this some level of constant stress that no one knows how to get out of right now. Like, man, and then you just think of, you have those other problems on top of it. Like, it's bad.
It's a lot. I know. Well, and we all recommend too, just other things. I know we were talking about yoga before, but other things that help your body and mind calm down and focus. For me, I've been getting a little bit more into like reading daily devotionals and kind of prayer life, but it's other things that help your body process that stress. But then if those things aren't helping again, because Cordy's legitimately brings your cortisol down. And when your cortisol's high, it leads to so many problems. But all the time, we'll tell you the first thing, go find something like that. Find your stress relief. But it is so stressful right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even tell you the stories that I hear from people, just to your point, not even necessarily directly COVID related, but other things that are happening indirectly because of the effects of all of it.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, that's why I said our sales have skyrocketed, because people are just like, give me something to help with this stress.
Right.
So, but I mean, it's a good problem to have, but I also kind of breaks my heart that there's so many people just hurting and stressed out.
Exactly. But then I guess, again, you have relief.
Yes.
So that's nice.
Yes.
So are you sold out now, or can people order it right now?
It came back in just a couple weeks ago, and we're fully stocked. We're like ordering a huge amount just to kind of stay fully stocked, because some people were getting angry, which I totally understand. But no, we're fully stocked now, which is a good.
So if somebody's interested in learning some more and buying some supplements from NuEthix, where can they find you?
NuEthix.com, and that's spelled NuEthix. NuEthix.com is the best place to go. A lot of our products have videos on them where Vince and I explain what each one does to help give them more information to see if it's right for them or not. But that's really the best place. And then our IG, it's NuEthix _formulations. We post a lot there. We do a lot of educational stuff on there. We try to. We're going to be doing more and more of that. I'm going to be doing like a female CEO spotlight thing where people are going to ask questions and I'll answer things to them. We just want to make ourselves more available to people to answer the questions, because it is scary to try to figure out, what do you take? Do I even need this? I mean, there are plenty of times we tell people, you don't really need this. You need to go do X, Y, and Z, or go see this doctor, or figure this out. Yeah. But those are the best places to get a hold of us.
But if they have questions now, they should just email Zeb.
Yes. Yeah, Zeb's going to love that. Yeah. Zeb, ZEB at NuEthix.com. He's a great place to start. Yeah. And he can sort of filter who's the best person to answer the question. Sometimes he is, and he's learning more and more. But generally Vince or Jason or myself. Vince and Jason are the side. Vince's new title actually is Chief Scientist Officer.
Fancy.
Yeah, Chief Science Officer. So he's the one, he like is a wealth of knowledge. And then Jason also, they both I am always in awe when they start talking. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know how any of that works.
Jason has been on the podcast. It's just like, whoa.
Right. My head hurts. I don't know what you just said.
But I mean, that's exactly who you want to be making supplements.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, Zeb and I were joking how I'm the one who dumbs it down for everybody. If you look at the videos on our website, Vince will spew out all these words, and I'm like, well, it just helps you not have gas. Like, I'm going to tell you like the dumb way of knowing.
Yeah, it
how
helps
it
you fall asleep.
Yes,
Cool, got
exactly.
it.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, I'm so glad that we finally got to meet.
Yes,
and she
very
came
much
in,
so.
and looking forward to hearing from you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
For info on health coaching and more, go to AmandaValentineBites.com.